Welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Safey here with Chris Ballas and Anthony Broom on Thursday, October 23rd, as we get you ready and preview Michigan against Michigan State Saturday in East Lansing. The Wolverines looking to make it 4 in a row over the in-state opponent. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to give us a like. If you want the Wolverines to pull it off this weekend, give us a thumbs up. We got to get to 400 likes on this video. Show your support. Subscribe to the channel as well as we continue to grow and grow here. And as always, we'll have all your coverage from East Lansing on Michigan football all season long. Basketball, recruiting, transfer portal, NIL over at thewolverine.com. You can use the promo code UM1 right now for 2 months of access for just $1. So get on the message board over there. Get behind the paywall on all of our premium articles using the promo code UM1. Again, that's 2 months of access for just $1. And leave us a comment if you're watching on YouTube too. What's your final score prediction? We'll get to ours at the end of the show. How's this game going to go? Are you going to have 2 screens up, or do you have BTN Plus? You're going to be watching the Michigan basketball exhibition against St. John's. That's going to be kind of tough, but those of you with 2 TVs, let us know what your setup's going to be. Should be it's at least a lot going on Saturday, fellas.
Those with 2 TVs, what is this, the 1950s? They just got their new black and white Zenith or something like that. Everybody's got 2 TVs. I guess it's a matter of where they got them set up, right?
That's what I mean. If you got them,
I still remember monkeying around with my dad's probably a 4-inch TV screen with an FM AM radio on it. That was also a flashlight. So
those are classic. Yeah,
they should bring those back. Honestly, I actually had a Watchman.
Yeah, they're called iPhones now.
Exactly. I had a Watchman TV, and back in the day, it was a little TV screen, and you had to the dial would go this way, and had the antenna and everything else. It was fantastic. It was the best gift I ever got. So, but now everything's on the phone. You know what? There are going to be a lot of people. There are a lot of people now that have 3 TVs in their basement. I was with Doug Karst last week, and we were watching 3 different games after the Michigan game in his basement. Jack Miller was down there. We were having a few beers. There's nothing better. So if you have not invested in that second TV in your man cave next to the other one, and I would highly recommend 3, now is the time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, all the name drop. You should never name drop people. Bruce Springsteen told me that one time.
That's not name drop. Doug Karsh, are you seriously?
Doug's a celebrity.
We love Dark. He's
Doug.
royalty around here.
And he says he listens to the pod while he's falling asleep. So thank you for falling asleep.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to tell you about some of the bad things I know about the guy, because I love the guy. So Jack Miller, I'll give him that. Jack Miller's a stud. He's a happy engagement to a beautiful woman. So Jack's about as good as it gets. Doug is not. And
Jack is fresh off his vacation. He missed a game a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
Same with me for a wedding too. So, but I still watched it at home. But yep. It's tough out here with these fall weddings. But
people should know better.
They should.
Well, they should know better. Because when you have a fall wedding, you also have a fall anniversary the rest of your life too. So
nice job.
Would you know anything about that?
Yeah.
No, I'm thrilled, by the way, with how it worked out for me. But some people it might not work out so well.
We all are, because she's a doll. She's a sweetheart, and
she is.
You did great.
All right, this pod is off the rails. We get back on the rails here, and let's preview
talk about our nails or anything now. No, all right.
Let's preview Michigan against Michigan State. We'll set the stage here. Michigan's a 14.5-point favorite right now on BetMGM on the road. 7:45 is your official kickoff time, so you do have 45 minutes of just basketball if you're going to go that route with the BTN Plus. Over on NBC is the football game. Noah Eagle, Todd Blackledge, Catherine Tappan on the call. Michigan with a 74-38 and 5 edge in the all-time series. They've won the last 3, 29-7 in 2022, 49-0, the worst loss in Spartan Stadium history in 2023, and then 24-17 in kind of a weird game at the Big House last year, but Michigan pulls it off. They were coming off, a couple losses in a row at that point. It's 5-5 in the last 10 over at Spartan Stadium. Paul Bunyan trophy's on the line for the 73rd time. Began in 1953. Michigan has a 41-29-2 advantage in those games. This season, Michigan at 5-2 overall, 3-1 in the Big Ten. Michigan State 3-4 overall, 0-4 in the Big Ten. 4-game losing skid. They've lost to USC, Nebraska, UCLA, and Indiana. played solid against Indiana, but that's a tough team, especially on the road, which you never thought you would say a few years ago. But for Michigan, it's a playoff game. All of these are going to be, and they're going to have to really win out to get in the college football playoff, most likely. In Michigan State, it's a big opportunity for them to, whether it's turn their season around or have something to look back on when this season's over and you're 5-7 or 4-8. If it continues to go on this path, but they somehow pull off a win over Michigan, then that's going to be what this team's remembered for. This is their biggest game of the year.
Yeah, and it better not happen. Let's be honest. If you're Michigan and if you're Sharon Moore, you're still trying to get the goodwill back. He saved himself last year with those last 2 wins of the year, especially Ohio State and with Alabama. Winning those last 2 games bought him some goodwill. They have not been competitive, really, in my opinion, in the 2 big road games, the 2 biggest road games this year. Nebraska, we found out, is kind of a trash team. Yeah, if you watched that Minnesota game, and you can't always compare, right? You can't say, oh, look how they did against them, but they are who we thought they were. Their offensive line is trash. Michigan dominated that game, should have won by more against Nebraska. So, but you never know in this game, and weird things happen. Aiden Childs is capable if he gets some time to throw. He is not an elite quarterback, but he would be a hell of a lot much better than he was if he had more time to throw and he had a better offensive line or a running game in front of him. It's kind of like the Matt Stafford principle, right? When everybody's like, well, Matt Stafford didn't win, blah, 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 blah. They had like 6 100-yard rushers in his entire time here. If you don't have a running game and it's all on you and the passing game, it makes it that much harder. And that's kind of what it's become for them. They've got some good receivers, Nick Marsh. They're going to test them. I don't have any doubt about it. They're probably going to throw deep a few times. Remember the 2015 game, a lot of their offense was, hey, throw it up deep for Aaron Burbridge and hope for a pass interference or hope for a long play. I think you're going to see some of that too. So the secondary is going to have to be better, because I think that ball's going to be coming out in a hurry. So I don't expect Michigan State to run on Michigan. If they do, then you got bigger issues, fellas, because this is a terrible running football team, and Michigan should be able to handle them there. So, but anything can happen in this game. We've seen it. There have been very few blowouts up there. There have been very few games that have been won by more than a score up there over the last 20, 30 years or so. If you think about it, right? 21-7, I think, 1 year, 32 to, what was it? 30. It was an 9-point win, but it could have just as easily been 7 or 6 or whatever it was.
Antonio went for 2. Are you talking about 2016? Yeah. Weird
exactly.
decision. Yeah.
Exactly.
32-23, I think it was.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. But regardless, it is hard to pull away up there because they hate Michigan so much and it festers in them. The one thing that interests me is, I was talking about this in staff picks, fellas. 5 days before, 5 days after Michigan State hired Jonathan Smith, Kurt Cignetti goes to Indiana. Could you imagine Cignetti at Michigan State? That would have been a bitch. So as it is, Jonathan Smith is coaching for his life up there. He doesn't really hate Michigan, which I respect, frankly, but doesn't make him a great fit up there either.
Yeah, it's tough there because when Michigan State fans are fired up, they show up and you're going into the Lions Den. That's every basketball game I've ever been at President's Center is like that. It's an incredibly tough place to play when their team is good. When their team is bad, it's a mausoleum like it was 2 years ago when, what was it, maybe 30%, maybe more Michigan fans were there. Of course, that's coming off of, they had the Mel Tucker situation. The fans were kind of checked out in that season. I think a lot of the Michigan State fan base is more or less checked out in this season and going into this game feeling like, you know what? Like, yes, obviously we want to beat Michigan, but if Michigan puts it on us, then we probably can be free of the Jonathan Smith era and a guy who at this point, nice guy or not, it looks like a Rich Rod type of fit there with just a guy who doesn't quite fit in with what the expectations are, the venom you have to kind of bring to that job. So it's tough to win there. It's tough to pull away there. But, at times, this is the definition of a game where this game specifically is a tale of two teams going in complete opposite directions. And I think it's very telling about the direction of the Michigan State program and where expectations are right now, that they have a 25-point loss, which really was a sad field goal away from being a 28-point loss where they're coming out praising.
Some of us were very upset about that field goal. I will say that.
Some people were. Some people may have been. And the narrative coming out of that, it was a step up from the UCL game because the fight was much better. You lost by 25, and you've given up well over 30 points against every Power 4 team you've played. This game, I don't want to, because if it goes the other way, it'll get clipped and ratioed and all sorts of this. But this is a game where I think Michigan really has to fight itself and grow up a little bit to handle their business, because this is not a good Michigan State team.
No, you're right. And it's interesting because Michigan hasn't played that well on the road. Even the Nebraska game, they should have won by more than they did, and they're 1-2 on the road. And they really haven't blown anyone out other than Central Michigan. Like, there have been comfortable wins. You've seen New Mexico was comfortable. I wouldn't call that a total blowout. I think it was 17 points. Mm-hmm. The Wisconsin game, 24-7, it was comfortable. It wasn't really in doubt.
24-10.
Or yeah, you're right. So, then last week it was 24-7, and that's where I'm getting that number. And it was really tied up until late in the third quarter. Now Washington is much better than Michigan State is, but you're going on the road. And we don't, the thing that I go back to, and this is in our By the Numbers piece today, where bad Michigan State teams do not usually upset good Michigan teams. It's been since 1995, really, that has happened. When you look at their records at the end of the season, Michigan goes 9-4, Michigan State 6-5-1, but they get a win over Michigan. It's typically when Michigan State's pretty good and Michigan's also pretty good, or Michigan's down, Rich Rod, Brady Hoke, and it's early in the year, 5-0, right? Wasn't it 5-0, when Rich Rod came in, Michigan's ranked and they beat them. It's like that team wasn't really a ranked team. They were at the time. So, you have to look at it at the end of the year, what they end up being, and it hasn't happened. But the only thing about that this year for me is we don't know for sure exactly what Michigan is at this point. They haven't been dominant really in too many games. They look like a pretty good team, but they haven't put it all together yet in one of these games. This would be a great one to do it. It would be extremely sweet for this group of guys to go up there and do that this weekend, and to have that feeling of that bus ride home where you have the good vibes. Then you're going into Purdue. Like, you could get this thing rolling here, but to predict it right now, I think is hard to do, because we've seen a lot of this team be pretty solid, and then when they face good teams, not so good. But 7 games is still a relatively small sample size. Like, they could turn into something and continue to grow and be quite a bit better. I do wonder what the fan split is going to be. I don't think it's going to be as bad in 2023. I'm reading my article from after the 2023 game, 49-0. I said Michigan State calls its student section the deep end. It was shallow in depth like a kiddie pool midway through the third quarter. And it was pretty much filed out at that point. They're checked out to an extent. They're on to basketball, but this isn't a Michigan team that enters this game as the sole favorite to win the national championship like they did in 2023. This is a Michigan team that I think a lot of MSU fans believe that they can beat, or at least can hang with. And, they're not going to predict it. Many of them are not confident that I've talked to, but they at least think there's a chance. And I think there's a chance. So we'll see. We'll see what that fan split is. It'll be kind of interesting to watch, but
and it's worth mentioning too, that this is a Michigan team under Sherrone Moore that has had some inexplicably bad road performances. So have they earned the benefit of the doubt? Like, we'll get to all that in stat predictions and whatnot. So there is a path there. We'll get to it, but I think that's where some of the pause comes from as well.
I agree. Let's get into the matchup here, the Michigan offense against the Michigan State defense. But before we do, let's talk about Game Time, where those Michigan fans, to segue into this, can get their tickets. Football is here. Tailgating is here. It's rivalry week, and great to be at these college football venues each and every week. You can go as well and take the stress out of buying tickets with Game Time. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Wolverine podcast. It is the best place to buy tickets. And the Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. I was looking earlier. I think you can get in for $75 for this game. If you got, 2, 3, 4 people going, then maybe it goes up a little bit, but somewhat reasonable as the get-in price here for Michigan against Michigan State. Gametime has exclusive discounts like zone deals. You can choose the section. Gametime selects the seats, and you save. With Gametime, it's easy to find and buy college football tickets and tickets for every kind of event in your area. And one of the best things here, your total up front. There's no surprise fees at checkout. So when you're browsing and you're texting your friend, hey, should we get these ones or these ones? These ones are $88 or whatever. That's the price. There's no surprise fee at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code ON3. That's ON3 for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. So the Michigan offense heading into this game, they still haven't had that total breakout performance, right? You're scoring 24. You go on the road. You're not really producing as much. You're not ending a lot of these drives, even the ones that they cross midfield and they get into opponent territory. They're not ending them with points as much as they'd like to. They're not picking up the fourth downs when they decide to go for it. You're having some issues in short yardage, but you should have Justice Haynes back most likely in this game, and he will be – he's huge. I mean, he's a total game changer for this offense, as good as Jordan Marshall was last week. And I would call him a game changer in that game against Washington with how hard he ran and just the production, 133 yards. But Justice Haynes, leading the Big Ten right now with 117.5 rushing yards per game, would certainly be huge to have him back. Blake Frazier is your left tackle this weekend. His third career start, because he started 2 as an extra offensive lineman, but his first as a real, main position player on the offensive line, replacing Evan Link. So, a little bit of you maybe get Haynes back. You lose Evan Link in this game against the Michigan State defense. They're 121st in the country. They're allowing 32.7 points per game, 52nd against the run, 111th against the pass. Your guys' initial thoughts on this matchup here, and Michigan getting their game-changing player back.
Yeah, and Haynes, a 43-yard run or more in 4 of his 6 starts, I think. So it's ridiculous what he brings in terms of explosion, and explosive plays are huge, guys. If you don't have to go 12 plays, and that was one of the things you said about Jordan Marshall, right? This guy, I love this guy. He's going to get his big gain's going to be like 19 or 14 or 13 or something like that. Although he's had a couple big ones himself, including one called back, but you're talking about one of the best in college football in terms of breaking the big run in Haynes. So having him back would be huge, especially because this is not a predictable offense, right? Where you're going to run. Even in the 49-0 game, Michigan was in a lot of 3rd and longs, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 14, and were able to pick those up. And that's the reason that they were able to keep drives alive, because Michigan State was stacking the box. They can't do that in this game because Michigan's going to throw the ball. Chip Lindsey is unpredictable, which is bad for this Michigan defense, in my opinion. You can't guess, right? You're going to have to play everything straight up. You can't really play to stop the run because their pass defense is so bad. We've seen, I watched a handful of Michigan State games this year where in every game there are receivers running wide open where you're like, where the hell is the defensive back? Not even in the picture, right? And Michigan has an advantage there, especially with Andrew Marsh emerging. If they get their tight ends back, which they should, Marlon Klein and Hogan Hansen should be back this week. So that gives you a couple more options for Bryce Underwood, who had his best game. Think about this, fellas. He should have been 25 of 27 for about 275, 280 yards last week. As it was, he still completed 70-something% of his passes. He was on the mark. As long as he doesn't try to do too much. And again, this is an in-state game, so it means more for these in-state guys. They're going to be just fine. So I think this is a game. And Clay, you said in your staff pick, and I was thinking the same thing. Man, do I really want him to pick? We'll get to our picks, but are they going to score 30 or more points in this game? I think Michigan State's defense is that bad. And this really doesn't feel like a true road game, right? Because they're going to be, it's right down the road. They'll probably go in the morning on a bus, so they don't have to stay in that crappy town that night, with all due respect. And I think that we're going to see a really good performance from this Michigan offense. And I love Blake Frazier at left tackle because his dad played here. He understands the Michigan State rivalry. There's a little bit more want to against these guys and the Aiden Hutchinsons and players like that. So I think it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, Michigan State has played 5 Power 4 teams this year. The point totals allowed 40, 45, 38, 38, 38. If Michigan takes care of the football, this has the chance to be their most complete offensive performance yet. Now, last week you go back and you watch the game, you're a drop here, you're a 4th down conversion there, away from that being far more lopsided than the final score would even indicate.
Missed field goal too.
Yeah. Missed field goal as well. You can't, even in a rivalry game, despite how Michigan State might look on tape, which is not good, by the way, you can't leave that sort of margin for error out there, especially on the road, especially away from home. The last thing that you want to do is you go 3 and out on your, let's just say Michigan State gets the ball first on offense. They go down and score. You come back and go 3 and out. All of a sudden, the crowd that is there maybe just more so hoping for the best, you start to add a little bit of juice. And once there's a little bit of juice, you don't want that to spiral on you. So I think a quick start is very important for them. If they get Haynes back, if they finally get these tight ends back, it feels like all of these pieces might be clicking together. And I've said for a couple of weeks now, even with the point totals, even in the USC game, I feel like this Michigan offense is really close to a breakout. And the biggest step forward I thought they took last week was that Bryce Underwood was extremely comfortable just taking whatever the defense will give him. Well, this defense that Michigan State will put out there will probably give him almost anything that they want to dial up. So I feel pretty optimistic that this is a big step forward for them. But also, like we said before, it's been a bit of a struggle on the road in making those plays and putting these teams away. So that's what I'll be looking for this week. But this is a great spot for them to finally sort of click back into place.
And one of the reasons could be, like I mentioned a lot of the numbers there of Michigan just hasn't quite had that, what you were just talking about. But you've had Andrew Marsh, who's just, looks like an incredible receiver, freshman or not. He's been a starter now and in the lineup and pretty much in on every snap for 12 quarters. 6 of those quarters, you haven't had Justice Haynes along with him. And if you have those two working together, where now you got more of a dynamic passing game because Marsh is a big play waiting to happen. He's been really consistent. He hasn't dropped the pass this year, all those things. And you have the run game with a home run threat like Justice Haynes, and you're seeing what Donovan McCulley's done. If your tight ends are healthier, the offensive line is getting incrementally better, I would say, especially run blocking. That was, stats don't always mean everything, but that was a top 10 rush defense last week in the Washington game that they faced. I don't think they were anywhere near that in terms of what they really are, but still you're seeing some incremental progress there. So there's reason to believe it can get better. It's not just going to be 24 points every game. So, to kind of push back on my own point from earlier, this Michigan State defense does not get any pressure. It's been the biggest thing. And you watched it against Indiana, right? They had some plays where they stacked up the run. And then those same defensive linemen on a passing down just could not get off their guy. And Fernando Mendoza was back there with a ton of time when they didn't run those quick hitting RPOs, which they live off of. And he went 24 of 28 for 332 yards and 4 touchdowns last week. So pretty much everything worked. But when they did have those longer dropbacks, there was a lot of time, 122nd in the country in pressure rate, 27.9% of the time they get pressure. They're banged up in the secondary. Both safeties were out by the end of last game. So there's reason to believe that Michigan can take advantage of some of that this week as well. Like, they're solid against the run, but if it starts to get away from you and Haynes is ripping off, 15, 18 yarders and then maybe one big one, then it all could fall apart. And Michigan does have that big game.
Yeah. And that's pretty much, what we've been saying. It's like, this is a bad defensive football team, right? You better put up points. You better move the ball. There are no excuses here. I don't care about the emotion and they're coming to play hard. You better match their intensity. You better play hard. You better play a really good football game. If you do that, you win this game flat out. You move the ball and you put up a ton of points. So that's really what it boils down to. We can sit there and break down the X's and O's all we want to, but there is going to be so much there for the taking. Protect the football, do your jobs, get out of there with a win.
And like you said, the pass rush. I would say their front, at least from a talent and production perspective, probably more akin to what they saw against Nebraska, similar to Washington, but I think Washington's still probably better. So again, this just feels like a tailor-made spot for that game we've been waiting for out of this Michigan offense.
Yeah. And if Underwood has time, you could see another big game from him. You're seeing him get more comfortable, it feels like, by the week. And when it comes to him and the offense and everyone in general, they've played in a lot of road environments. This will not be anywhere near the toughest they've played in to this point. That would be Oklahoma. You've also gone to Nebraska. You won that game. USC got loud at different times, but wasn't all that crazy. So you're getting used to playing in all these different sorts of environments. And this one being their fourth road game in 8 games, I mean, you don't love it because you've dropped 2 of those, but you at least can bank those experiences and use them to your own advantage. Let's flip it over to the Michigan State offense with Aiden Childs against the Michigan defense. Spartan offense, 77th in the country with 27.1 points per game. They're 109th in yards per carry, 3.7. 76th in yards per pass, 7.2. They're averaging 213.7 passing yards per game. Aiden Childs, an experienced quarterback. I know the media doesn't want to tell you that, but this is going to be his 20th start. Like, he is an experienced college quarterback. He has Ty Simpson, maybe the number 1 overall draft pick next year. He's started 7 games, but Childs is nearly triple that. 65.1 completion rate for him this year, 1,262 yards, 10 touchdowns, has really limited the interceptions, only 3 on the season. After that was a big issue, especially at the beginning of last season. He's 10th in the Big Ten at 7.2 yards per pass. Can also run 66 rushes for 243 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's taking out the 18 sacks that he's taken as well. So he's good. He's mobile. He can run around and make crazy plays. Sometimes he mashes all the buttons on the controller, just like Josh Allen used to, and he does something dumb. But, when you don't have protection and you're running for your life a lot and you're trying to make something happen, then sometimes, you got to do something crazy and take a risk. He does have a good receiving core, but, it's a poor offensive line, and that has really doomed them for a few years now.
Yeah, and you hope that you don't have to blitz a ton in this game. I thought really taking a step back in that area last week against Washington was big. Make them earn their stuff down the field, right? Don't give up those big plays on the screen passes. Michigan State's going to try that. Obviously, they're going to wait for Jayshon Barham to get too far upfield and vacate and try to take advantage of that. He didn't do that last week, right? Guys did a much better job handling their assignments. So we aren't sure about Rayshawn Benny at this point. Hopefully he will play. I think that would be big. He had a big game against a bad offensive line at Nebraska when he got a ton of pressures, and that would be huge in a game like this if you can get pressure with 4. So maybe you'll see some max protect here. I do like Childs. You know what? Again, I've said the same thing about him as I've said about other quarterbacks that didn't have offensive lines or running games. What do you expect, right? You want this guy to be a hero and not make any mistakes when you have no running game, you have no offensive line, but he does have good receivers. If he didn't have good receivers, he would have no shot here in this game, but he does. And so you're going to see that short passing game. Can Michigan take that away? And if they take that away, what does Michigan State have, right? It's going to be very fascinating to see how they approach this. Would be great to get off to a fast start against these guys and not let them march the field. They did that against Washington, got them off the field. So, and that's huge, especially in a road environment. If you can get off to a 14-0 lead or a 10-0 lead, that crowd's getting quieter, and then the Michigan fans take over, and it feels almost like a home game. So, but they don't scare you in as much as they are just not a complete offense and they have no running game. But when you've got a quarterback that can get away from people and can do some things with his feet, you've got to really concentrate on your rush lanes, which they did again last week. Damon Williams Jr. scared all of us. They did a fantastic job against him. Keep him in the pocket, make him throw, make him make some mistakes because he's good for one at least a game, right? And you should be okay.
It's almost like if they could run it right back with the way that they slowed down Damon Williams last week, you'd feel great about them in this game. You might even pick them to score, less than 2 touchdowns. Week to week consistency has been a bit of an issue. It seems like some weeks what gets fixed then becomes an issue next week and vice versa. So it's a big test for them. I don't think that the passing game that they see is going. I don't think Aiden Childs is as good as John Mateer. I don't think he's even as good as Dylan Raiola probably is, at least from an arm talent perspective. I don't think he's as good as Jaden Mayava is. He's mobile. He's a pain in the ass. He's going to make a couple of plays that are going to make you want to rip your hair out. And that's the key too, is when they, you're probably going to get them in quite a few of these 3rd and long situations. And those might be the snaps on defense that I'm least confident in Michigan and Wake Martindale's defense at times. So for me, it's get the pressure. You've got a couple of turnstiles up front. Their left tackle's not very good. I think their right guard has given up just as many pressures. I think they're both at 14 apiece. I just closed out of the tab. So your defensive line's going to have to bring it. You assume they're going to try and get the ball out quick and test, a Michigan team that has been inconsistent on the tackling front at times, but it's just one of the, you continue to take away the run and make them drop. I'll say this, if Aiden Childs has to drop back 50 times in this game, I feel really good about Michigan's chances because I think he's going to get hit a lot if he does.
Yeah, I think that means Michigan has a lead too if they're throwing that often. So I would definitely take that as well. And, at the same time, this is a Michigan State offense that did come out hot last game against Indiana. And, when you look at their first 2 drives, it was 13 plays, 55 yards, field goal, 12 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. In terms of clock time, 8 minutes and 18 seconds, and then 6 minutes and 53 seconds. Those were the 2 longest drives anyone had put on Indiana all year long. Now, Indiana was coming back from a big win over Oregon. Curt Cignetti got a contract throughout the week, but Curt Cignetti teams, which, again, it's like we've had 2 years of data here, but they don't feel like the type of team that would, come out, not playing well or complacent after those things. So you have to give Michigan State some credit for that. Michigan State has scored on its first possession of the game, 6 of 7 games coming into this one. And obviously Michigan has had some issues defensively, not starting fast and having to settle into the game. But if Michigan State does get up 3-0 or 7-0, it's not time to panic, but it certainly gives them a shot to hang around for a while because you got to score 2 times more maybe to get a 1 or 2 score lead, maybe tied late in the second quarter, But if you can get out to your own lead, I think that would be really big. You mentioned it, Anthony. This offensive line is really banged up. They're allowing pressure on 33.5% of dropbacks. Childs has to run around and try to do something on his own in a lot of those plays. Left tackles, they moved him over from right tackle. The right tackle made his first career start, Rustin Young, last week. The center, Wake Forest transfer, Matt Golubin, is really, really good, one of the top centers in the country, but around him is just utter chaos and moving parts, and week to week, a different guy. He probably looks over there and is like, oh, yeah, it's you this week. But so it's been an issue. Now, they said coming into the year that they had a lot of depth on the offensive line. They're having to test that, and maybe everyone feels like they have a bunch of depth coming into the season. You see that a lot in basketball. But I would say best player on the offense is Nick Marsh. Second best player is Aiden Childs. The third best player is Amari Kelly. The fourth best player is Krishawn McCray. That's your quarterback and your wide receivers. And, that can make you a dangerous team. It's probably like when you would go play Maryland, that was the case for them. They have NFL wide receivers in Talia Tagovailoa. It's like, they can do something. They can scare you. So it's just a fact. Are they going to go out and actually win the entire game by themselves with not much of a defense? Probably not, but they can allow them to hang around and make things interesting, and then you never know. Anything else before we get to our predictions?
No, I was going to say that Marsh would be the guy I'd have circled, underlined, especially as that threat down the field. We've seen, guys like Jair Hill kind of get got by double moves and such this year. So he's the type of guy that they probably should target him 11, 12 times and just try their luck with it.
Mm-hmm. We'll see if he draws some extra attention from the Michigan defense.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I did want to mention as well, all those big downs, short yardage, which Michigan State was solid at last weekend, it's Child's design run. So Michigan's got to be aware of that. It was 3rd and 1 on the second drive. Child's straight keeper for the first down. 4th and 1, Childs gets it. 3rd and 1 in the third quarter, they hand it off. They don't get it, and then it's 4th down. They keep it with Childs. They get it. There was another 4th down earlier in the game where they ran a quick pass to Nick Marsh when he had a little bit of room on the perimeter. So Michigan's been soft in coverage in some of those situations. maybe get up on him a little bit more because they want to throw it to him quick and let him run because they don't have much protection. So just a few things to watch there that Michigan State does. And they'll screen you a little bit. They haven't been good on screens this year, but they hit several of them against Indiana, and Michigan's just going to see those all year. As Trey Williams said this week, you'd be crazy not to screen us after what we put on film against USC. Very self-aware comment by Trey Groovy. Let's get to our predictions for this one. Offensive player of the game, defensive player of the game, X Factor, our final scores. And they're all brought to you by BetMGM. The Wolverine has teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. It's time to lock in those Saturday showdowns with BetMGM. Whether you're betting the underdog or riding with the favorite, take your excitement to the next level with a college football odds boost token. Log into your BetMGM account to receive your token, then place a bet on any college football matchup with your activated token. If your boosted bet hits, you'll score an even bigger payout. Claim your odds boost token and be sure to activate it before placing your bet. The game is about to kick off, so feel the rush and own the moment. BetMGM, make it legendary. Like we said at the top, Michigan a 14.5-point favorite. Over-under is 47.5. We'll get our final scores in a second. My offensive player of the game is going to be Justice Haynes. I mean, I've probably picked him 4 or 5 times this year. Hard not to at this point. I think he has a big game after coming back from injury if they get him back.
I think I picked Bryce Underwood last week, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I'm going with Bryce again. I think there are going to be a lot of opportunities for him, both in the run and pass game, scrambling, whatever, roll him out, do some things with him. I think you're going to see one of his best games of the year against the Spartans. I think he's got something to prove against the in-state team, even though he never considered them or even gave them a sniff. I think this is going to be a big game for him.
Part of me wants to be bold and say that Andrew will be the more productive Marsh in this game. However, we haven't had a big game pick for a guy like Donovan McCulley lately, and I think he's due for one. So I'm going to go with McCulley catching some of those jump balls down the field.
Anthony, who's your defensive player of the game?
Defensive player of the game, he's got to play, but I'll go with Rayshawn Benny. If he can push the pocket against, like you said, Matt Golban, who is one of the better centers in the league, I think that opens things up for everyone. But if he doesn't play, give me Derek Moore.
Yep. Derek Moore came alive last week. He'd be my pick. I think Rod Moore, maybe he won't have the numbers, but Rod Moore is going to be huge in this game in terms of getting everybody lined up. And I think you're going to see him make a few plays too.
Yeah, it would be nice if you have Rod, Brandon Hillman, Hogan Hansen, kind of the trio of weirdness there last week where they were dressed and then weren't dressed in the second half, all that. I got Derek Moore as well. I think he's playing his best ball now. He was banged up at the beginning of the year, but still playing through it. Now you're seeing it by the week where it feels like when a big play needs to happen, he's at least in there and making plays. I think play him more anyway down the stretch here. They should be pretty fresh. He said he feels fresh at this point in the year. Chris, who is your X factor? Or what is your X factor?
Yeah, good question. I don't think it's going to be close enough that Dominic Zvada is going to be the X factor here, but he better make his damn kicks, right? Come on, Dom. It's time to step up. So my X factor, I think, is going to be, man, that's a tough one. You put me on the spot. How about the special teams in the punting game, right? You can't have a crappy game from your kicker here. And Michigan State's got a great punter. Field position could be big in a game like this when it comes to Michigan State hanging around. So time for Hudson Hollenbeck to have his best day. They keep talking about how good he is in practice. Let's see it on the field.
I know there's buzz that the tight ends will be back this week, but I'm going to roll with Zach Marshall. I think he's played well enough and has good enough rapport with Bryce Underwood to earn more playing time, more opportunities. So look for him to have another good game this week.
I got Zeke Berry as my X factor. I feel like each and every week we see him play really, really aggressive, going after the ball. I think if you pressure Childs, force an errant throw, and he jumps one of those, I don't know why. I'm just feeling that Zeke gets a couple big pass breakups, maybe an interception, something like that. So we'll see there. But I think that, it's a big, big game for the Michigan DBs going against this receiving core. And Childs, who can really make all the throws on any given play, or he can screw it up with a mistake. But, the upside is there for him in that offense. But final scores. Who wants to start?
I'll go. I got 31-17 Michigan. I think the Wolverines pull away. I don't think it's going to be one of those really comfortable ones. There's always going to be, it's going to be within a score or two and go back and forth. And I'm not sold that this is a great Michigan football team yet. And I don't think anybody should be, but this is a game that you have to win. This is a game you better win. You're a better football team. You got better players at just about every position. Go out there and take care of business.
I have Michigan 35, Michigan State 16. I wouldn't be surprised if this was somewhat of a close game at the half, and then Michigan pulls away late, makes their adjustments on both sides of the ball, and the talent ultimately wins out here.
Yeah, I got 28-17 Michigan winning this one. I guess that means Michigan State covers the spread. I'm still waiting for the offense to actually put it together in one of these games. So that's kind of where I'm at. I understand that it's possible. We talked about the reasons why it could come here, but I'm going to kind of stay in that range of 11 points right now for Michigan, pulling off their fourth straight over Michigan State. Let's move into No Man Knows the Future. We got 5 games to pick from college football week 9. Before we do that, our standings, Chris Ballas still in the lead at 19-16-1, coming off of a 2-3 week. You had LSU over Vanderbilt. I'm reading them off now because I don't want to get accused of anything.
Right.
You had
just don't do it right, and you won't get accused of anything. Right.
It was once. It was once, but it was bad math by me. It was totally my fault.
It's okay.
You had Ole Miss over Georgia, Iowa over Penn State, but you did get Alabama right over Tennessee and Notre Dame.
Sure, I picked Ole Miss over Georgia.
USC. Yes.
I thought I had Georgia.
No, you did not.
Well, I should have been rooting for him then. Okay.
Myself, trust me, I went back and listened. Myself, I went 3-2 last week, 17-18-1 overall, creeping towards 500. Anthony, 2-3 week as well, 13-22-1 on the year. A lot of football left. Let's start with UCLA, which is in Big Noon kickoff at number 2, Indiana. Indiana is a 25.5-point favorite. Over under is 54.5 noon on Fox. Who do you guys have?
It's a lot of points, guys. I like Indiana's football team. This could be one of those games where, look at last week. It could have gone either way. And then Coach John Smith kicks a field goal to break hearts. So, but I'm still going to take Indiana to cover the 25.5. I just think that's a really good football team.
Yeah, Coach Sig isn't – Psycho Sig, as I've started to call him, is not going to not cover the spread 2 weeks in a row. Give me Indiana.
Okay. You know how, sometimes I'll joke in the press box when it's like Michigan's playing Nebraska and it's like Logan Smothers at quarterback, some third stringer, and there's 14 seconds left in the half, and I say too much time for Logan Smothers. This is too many points for Jerry Neuheisel. I'm taking UCLA to cover this spread. I don't know why. I just feel like and I think Signetti was saying this is a 3-0 team because they've won all 3 with this coach, or maybe it's 4, whatever it is. They are a different team. I don't know. They are. I'll take them. Number 8, Ole Miss at number 13, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a 5.5-point favorite. Over under is 54.5 noon on ABC. I'll go with Ole Miss. Took them last week. They didn't cover by 0.5 point. I think they can score. Oklahoma's offense, there's something wrong with it right now. Mateer, obviously coming back from the injury, but I think Ole Miss can score with them and hang within the 5.5.
I like Oklahoma at home. The 5.5 is kind of a bigger number than I hoped. I thought it was 4.5. Double check on that if you would on BetMGM. But I do I do think Oklahoma will win this game by a touchdown.
I tend to agree, but at this point in the season, I need to start George Costanzaing myself, so I'm going to go with Ole Miss.
Just bet the opposite of what you feel? Okay.
Yep.
It is confirmed 5.5 over on BetMGM. Number 23, Illinois at Washington. Washington is a 4.5-point favorite. Over under is 54.5, 3:30 on Big Ten Network. Anthony, we'll go the other way around. What do you have in this one?
I like Washington in this game, and I'm going to take Washington. A bounce-back spot for them. Don't trust Brett Bielema and the Illini going out west.
I agree. I'm going with Washington by probably about 10 points.
I don't know why I can't get a grip on this Illinois team, and they're coming off the bye. They had the Ohio State game. They're going to be fresh going out west. I don't know why, but I'm taking them. I'm taking a lot of road teams this week, I feel like, but I'm going to go with Illinois. Number 15, Missouri at number 10, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's 2.5-point favorite, over under 51.5, 3:30 on ESPN. Chris, who do you have?
You guys sold me on Vanderbilt. I think that's a well-coached football team. Should have taken them last week, didn't. I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. I'm going with Vanderbilt at home.
Traditional SEC powers, Missouri and Vanderbilt in a top 15 matchup. That's crazy. I'm going to go with Vandy too. Diego Pavia has the juice. Vandy has the juice.
That's 3 Vandy picks. I'm going with them as well. They're 5-2 against the spread this year, coming off a big win over LSU. I will take them. Last game is number 3, Texas A&M at number 20, LSU. Texas A&M is a 2.5-point favorite on the road. Over-unders 48.5, 7:30 on ABC. There's something wrong with LSU, their offense. And A&M can score, and they got a great quarterback. I'm going with A&M in Death Valley.
Brian Kelly's got to win this game, and I think he will. I think he will cover the 2, or actually, I think he'll win. I mean, Texas A&M is favored. Tough place to play. I'm going to go with LSU.
Brian Kelly is a fraud. Mike Elko is not. Give me the Aggies.
Sometimes it's as simple as that, Anthony, right? It's college football. It's going to be a great weekend of college football. Stick with us over at thewolverine.com. You can use the promo code UM1 for 2 months of access for just $1. If you want to get in with all the us crazies, we'll group ourselves in on the game threads. It'll be going on basketball, football at the same time on Saturday night. Get over on our message board at thewolverine.com, promo code UM1 for 2 months of access for just $1. Hopefully see some of you at Spartan Stadium, and we will see everyone next time.